Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show I read a lot of comic books and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, The Closet, #1 from Image Comics. This is a new one from James Tynion IV with artwork by Gavin Fullerton, coloring by Chris O'Halloran, who you will know as the colorist of Ice Cream Man, lettering by Tom Napolitano. Anyway, The Closet was a really solid book. So basically it's about a kid who's got a monster in his closet. But really what the book is about this family kind of crumbling apart. And the father in this family, his kind of like last-ditch manic effort to try to save the family is to move them from this place. Now, of course, his kid lives in this house with a monster in his closet. Is it real? Is it figurative? Well, it seems like it's real, and knowing James Tynion, he likes to have monsters and kids and all that kind of stuff. But I loved this book. I thought the artwork was incredibly well. Most of the story is from the father's perspective, but it's done in a very non-judgmental, kind of balanced way where it's just presenting the facts of this kind of fractured relationship and what it's been doing to this family. And obviously, maybe a parallel to this kid's problems is seeing his parents fight all the time over every single little thing. I thought the book was incredibly well done artistically throughout the pacing. It told the story. It kept those beats going along with the script. The coloring is moody for the moodiness of this story. I thought this was super solid and a pretty decent week, but out of everything I read, The Closet to me stood out above and beyond and afar from the rest as the pick of the week. The Closet. That's from Image Comics. We also have The Phalanx from Image Comics. This is a one-shot from Jonathan Luna, one of the Luna brothers. They have a lot of work over at Image. And what this is a celebration of 30 years of Image. This is a one-shot parody kind of thing, if you will, to Wildcats. So all the characters are kind of, you know, they're versions of Wildcats characters. It's a ridiculous story. It's about a woman who time travels from 2022 to 1992 to basically meet the Phalanx, or the Wildcats. It was all right. The art was decent, but it was kind of nice and fun and nostalgic feeling, including that end right there that looks like one of those old comic book ads. Then we got Super Freaks #1. This is a one-shot comic related to the Savage Dragon universe. There is a Savage Dragon podcast called the Savage Fincast, and apparently the people that put that together put this together, and it's a bunch of like fans of Savage Dragon and fans of that podcast coming together to tell short stories kind of set in different iterations or versions of the Savage Dragon world. There's all kinds of stuff in there. It's cool. I enjoyed it. I read the first 3 issues of Savage Dragon several months ago. It blew me away. So I signed up for Savage Dragon just so I could just start reading it and go forward and then just try to catch up on the middle 200 and something issues. And the first thing I get is this Super Freaks thing, but I'm glad I did because I liked it. Some different kind of artwork and approaches to storytelling in here. So I thought it was fun. So if you like that kind of vibe, you might want to check that out. Then we got Little Monsters here with issue #4. Loving this series by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. The first 2 issues were a little bit of a slow burn, but it has really ramped up since then. It's about these kid vampires. They've been left on their own, told just eat rats and stay where you are and don't go out into the sun. They're starting to find out some of these things they've been told are lies. So what it's like when you're a kid and you start finding out that adults lied to you about certain things. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. Santa Claus isn't real. There is no Easter Bunny. All that kind of stuff. You know what? There is no Easter Bunny. Over there, that's just a guy in a suit. Anyway, but Little Monsters, what if those things that you learn that were false were like that you're supposed to only eat rats, and you find out you can eat humans and you really like it, right? And so now they're becoming a different type of animal. I really like this Lord of the Flies-esque look at children existing together without adult supervision, thrown in with vampires. And the artwork by Dustin Nguyen is amazing. Black and white, great gray tone usage, fantastic stuff. Then we got Step by Bloody Step, issue #4. I believe this is the final issue, and it kind of confused me, I'll be honest with you. This book has been told without any dialogue, right? So it's been told visually, and the artwork by Bagara has been absolutely amazing. The story's been easy to follow, and this one is too, till you get to the end, and I'm kind of like, what? I mean, I get the gist of it, but I'm kind of also like, what? How? I'm kind of missing some pieces, but I definitely think this is going to be something that when you sit down and read all 4 issues, or experience all 4 issues, because there's not any dialogue, I think you will really appreciate it. Great artwork, a pretty solidly told story. Ending, though, just a little confused on that. Then we got Scorched here with issue number 6, finishing off the Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, X-Men #1 homage connecting covers, so that's pretty cool. This is the Magneto one. Scorched has been a pretty solid book. It's the Spawn team book. It's written by Sean Lewis, who will be joining us here on the show June 16th, the writer of Scorched, King Spawn, and the upcoming, I think it's called Above Snakes with Hayden Sherman. Definitely want to be here for that, but Scorched number 6, another solid issue of this. It's got great dynamic artwork, conflicting personalities trying to make up this team of Spawns, and Al Simmons just acting like an a-hole, like a complete a-hole, and like not like a leader that is trusting of his team whatsoever. A really interesting book. I like it. I think it's super solid. Scorched, great artwork, fun conflict throughout the characters. Scorched number 6 out this week. Then we got Firepower number 21. I'm loving this book. First half of this book is like this new character that we had recently been introduced to, fighting the villain of the piece. That is a fantastically choreographed fight, well told. Chris Samney, Matt Wilson here on the artwork. It is absolutely phenomenal. Then we switch scenes and get a little bit more personal. Robert Kirkman's doing a great job of balancing quick, fantastic action with in-depth character studies and the family dynamics going on here. And just the idea of what would it be like if a giant dragon was unleashed upon the world, took over China. How would the world respond to that? This book is awesome, and it's fantastic. If you like good, like, kung fu type action, Firepower is the book from you. For you. From DC Comics, we got Justice League Road to Dark Crisis issue number 1. This is a one-shot comic filled with a bunch of short stories that are basically setting up things to come in Dark Crisis and Dark Crisis tie-ins. So there's a Jeremy Adams Flash story in here that's setting up just a little bit of stuff that's going to be probably part of his Flash Dark Crisis tie-ins, right? You got Chuck Brown doing a story in here with Green Lantern and Jackson Hyde, Aqualad, Aquaman, whatever you want to call him, setting up the Aquaman or the Aquaman Dark Crisis tie-ins, right? So it's got that kind of stuff. Philip Kennedy Johnson doing a Pariah story. It's got the main story by Josh Williamson. And it's a little bit about Jonathan Kent and Dick Grayson. And I have already read Dark Crisis number 1, so it does very neatly kind of set up something between the two of them that's going to happen in issue number 1. So I like it. I thought it was fine, but it is not 100% necessary to your understanding or enjoyment of the upcoming Dark Crisis, I would say. Shadow War Omega is here with the reveal of who the fake Deathstroke was happening in the last part. Joshua Williamson is here, along with his, who we got? We got Sokovia and Howard Porter here on the artwork. They're here to give us a slam-bang, fantastic finale to Shadow War, which to me has just been a good, solid, old-school superhero crossover with ramifications for the Batman-Damian relationship, ramifications for Talia al Ghul and her relationship with Damian, and of course with Bruce, and some really great setup to where Deathstroke's going to be mentally when Dark Crisis starts. So that's something that Joshua Williamson's been doing. We just had a conversation with him on the channel. If you missed it, check it out, because he talked a lot about what he had been leading into with Dark Crisis, and his excitement has oozed over into my already excitement, and now I'm even more uber excited. So Shadow War Omega, I thought that was a pretty solid finale. Then we got Action Comics 2022 Annual. This is from Philip Kennedy Johnson, Cy Spurrier, Dale Eaglesham, and Ian Churchill. Like I said on Rockin' Robbie Live's DC Sneak Peek, I think that this is the best artwork I've ever seen from Ian Churchill. The Englisham stuff is good too, but what this is a little bit of a origin story for this new iteration of Mongol, and a juxtapositioned story about Clark growing up with some new revelations on Clark growing up, and the juxtaposition between those two stories I thought was pretty well done. Philip Kennedy Johnson's been doing a fantastic job on Action Comics, and this is no exception. A really solid issue. Then we got Batman 2022 Annual. This is by Ed Brisson, and John Timms, they have been just announced as the new creative team of the upcoming Batman Incorporated book, and it all starts right here. So they are doing this Batman annual, and what it is Batman has given Ghostmaker the leadership role of Batman Inc., and this is their first mission with Ghostmaker as their leader. I love the personalities involved here. I love the way the characters are working for and against each other. I love the artwork. It's kinetic. It's got a great pace to it. It's a dense story, but it's got dense visuals as well that keep it flaring up in interest for me page to page. I loved this issue. I thought it was really cool. Then we got Nice House on the Lake here with issue number 9. We are nearing the end of this series, and there's so many characters involved that I have gotten to the part where I'm like, wait, who was Arturo? I don't remember this dude. There's so many people, so many things going on. The mystery is very interesting, but we're at this part of the story now where we know more than the characters, because the characters have had a little bit of a mind wipe. So even though it is still intriguing, even though it still has this really menacing, foreboding, atmospheric artwork, I'm starting to lose just a slight bit of interest because the characters are behind me, and they weren't before, and we're still doing these character spotlights, but now later into the series, I'm like, wait, I almost forgot this person was here. So the book is still solid, strong, but it definitely warrants a rereading already. But there's only 3 issues to go, and I think it will really be good altogether. From Marvel, we've got Carnage, issue number 3, Rom V, artwork by Rogue, Antonio, Dijo Lima on the coloring. I like Carnage. I think it's pretty fun. Rom V, I don't think is stretching as far psychologically as he does in some of his other works, but he's stretching as far and a little bit beyond what we need for Carnage. So you got the idea of the symbiote kind of being split off from the consciousness of Cletus. Cletus's consciousness is like with this police detective, and then you got the symbiote with this serial killer, and who will the new host be? And meanwhile, the symbiote's got this really grandiose kind of plan that's pretty cool. So you get some really interesting concepts and ideas, and it does start tying in a little bit more towards Venom and some interesting psychological thriller type work being done through the serial killer, through the detective, and through the symbiote costume, or the symbiote alien, the symbiote itself. Anyway, Carnage number 3, I liked it. Ghost Rider number 3, it's Ghost Rider versus basically the truck from Duel or Maximum Overdrive, something like that. It's like this killer truck that like just appears and takes people out, and you know, Johnny Blaze is Ghost Rider again. He doesn't want to be. He's trying to hold it within. He thought he was living this life with a wife and kids. It turned out it was all fake. Something's up with his head, and he's out there trying to resist the urge to enact vengeance, but he always gives into it, and it's just boring to me. It's just boring. I mean, it's kind of going along the setup of, say, something like the Incredible Hulk TV series, but it's just not quite clicking for me. That might be my last issue. Strange is here with issue number 3, and this one we get appearances from the Rose, which I think is pretty cool, because I actually like the Rose. It means you can tell I grew up reading Spider-Man comics in the mid to late 80s. But Clea is, of course, now the Sorcerer Supreme. Knowing the revelations that happened at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, we get now why Clea is the centerpiece of this. They're trying to build up that character. She is trying to find certain artifacts and powers that will help her be able to resurrect Stephen Strange. She's leading herself down a dark road, but it doesn't quite balance that very well. It's a weird book. Like, it's not bad per se, but it's just something off on the tone for me. It's not working. Maybe it's the characterization of Clea, but then there's a bit here where it turns a little bit. So I don't know. Strange is not really quite working for me. Then we got Deadpool, Bad Blood, issue number 2. This is the second part of a 4-part series that has already been completed. It was a graphic novel called Deadpool, Bad Blood by Rob Liefeld, and now they are basically splitting it up, and I think Rob is providing 2 more pages of artwork in each one. If you like Deadpool, you're going to like this story. It's a nice, fun Deadpool story. It harkens a lot back to the old school type stuff, obviously, with Rob Liefeld doing it. I have become quite the fan of Rob Liefeld's artwork. I see what works about it. It's interesting still to see his style today, right? So I liked this book. I thought it was solid. I think if you're a Liefeld fan, you'll love it. I think if you're a hardcore Deadpool fan, you'll like it. And I love the throwbacks to the old school stuff like Kane. Haven't seen Kane in a minute. Then we've got Alien, issue number 12. This is the final issue of Alien, War Now, because it was just announced that it's relaunching in August. Same writer, different artist team, but Okay, but this does wrap up this second story arc, which I thought was stronger than the first story arc, but maybe went a little bit too long. And I do still think that Salvador Larroca's artwork has just been a bit too static for this. Overall, though, it was a satisfying conclusion. I liked the way that it wound up, and it was pretty decent. Let's jump over to AWA. And from AWA, we have Newthink, issue number 1, a brand new sci-fi anthology series written by Greg Hurwitz. The first issue's got artwork by Mike Deodato. It's going to have a different artist in each issue, and each issue is going to be a different story. This one is really interesting. I don't know how to really describe the concept without super spoiling what the whole thing is, so I'll just basically say this. It is about a subtle alien invasion on Earth that hits very close to home. I thought this book was really cool. It's all done in narration with images kind of, showing you what's being told, but it still works. It works as a really great, chilling kind of short story that also says something about our modern society. I really liked it. Basic premise is this, of this first issue. Just say this. What if the alien invasion is your phone screen? Dun, dun, dun. This was really cool. Sleeper hit of the week, maybe? Possibly. Then we got By the Horns, Dark Earth, issue number 1, or as it says in the back, By the Horns number 9. I like that they did the legacy numbering there. The return of one of my favorite books from last year, By the Horns. The original arc of this was set up this woman, her husband, her lover, is killed, stampeded by unicorns. She's out there questing around, trying to find mythical beasts, including unicorns, and kill them. She winds up going onto this crazy quest. She defeats the evil sorceress, right? And she winds up realizing that not every mythical beast is bad, including unicorns. And now she's back home trying to live the normal life that she's supposed to be living, even though she does have this desire to want to go back out there and cause some havoc and participate in some action. And then that opportunity presents itself. This book doesn't miss a beat from the first series. I loved it. If you haven't read By the Horns, you could start here, but I would highly encourage you to pick up that graphic novel that's got the first 8 issues all together, and it's got a nice little pull quote from yours truly. There you go. That's from Scout. We also have Triskeli. I think this may have already come out, or maybe it's not coming out for another week or two. I don't know, but I went ahead and read it. Amazing, cool, like fantasy-based artwork, some really cool stuff, and a decent enough story. Kind of wrapped itself around some Celtic mythology, and that's interesting and that's cool, but it doesn't quite mesh together to really compel me to want to come back. The artwork was cool, it had some cool concepts, but it just didn't quite put it all together for me. Now, this came out a week or two ago, I believe, but this is the Recount Preamble. It's a one-shot prequel to the Recount. Now, I never finished the Recount, though I was really digging it, so I was kind of nervous, like, whether or not I should read this, but I still really enjoyed it. This tells the story of a soldier who becomes vice president, who becomes the spearhead of this whole thing that was going on in the Recount, so I liked it. I think even if you've not read the Recount, you can pick this up. You may like it. It does spoil some things that will be revealed in the Recount, but it was really solid. And if you are a fan of that Recount series, no reason why you're not going to like that one. Then we got Cult of Icarus, issue number 3. It's still decent. It's all right. So it's about this woman. She's like part vampire, part human, and everybody's after her, right? Like the vampires are after her, the humans are after her, people are trying to protect her, and it does kind of got these familiar kind of beats in the story, but it does work and carve out its own identity. It's got some cool artwork. The coloring in particular, I really, really like. It does get a bit inconsistent with the line work, though, but altogether, I'm still enjoying that book. From Dark Horse, We Have Demons, issue number 3. This is the final issue. Now, they've all been extra size, so when it's all collected together, it'll be one nice, meaty story with a beginning, middle, and an end, and I really did like the ending of this story. It would make a really cool movie or something like that, and plus, it's got some setup for the series to continue, and I believe it is. I hope it is, because I really did like it. It's a cool, interesting world, a different take on the whole fight between good and evil and devils and angels, but how that's kind of story-wise and thematically thread into the struggle that we all deal with every day between right and wrong and all these opposing forces. Really cool. Plus, Greg Capullo, you can tell he took his time on this because the artwork is amazing. Detailed, textured and exciting and exhilarating when it needs to be. This book is awesome. We have Demons issue number 3. Then we got Once and Future issue number 26. This is an okay issue. It's got some weird kind of jumps. Like, the book's really been kind of picking up a lot of pace lately and heating up. In fact, the last issue made my pick of the week. But this one, it kind of gets us to a point, and then it skips ahead a lot, and then it's got great concepts. It's got some interesting ideas, and it's moving parts of the story forward. But as an experience of just a single issue, it was a bit disjointed. That being said, the artwork and the coloring is still some of the best in comics, period, and the story is still very intriguing and great character. So all in all, this is still one of my favorite books on shelves, and it feels like they got different paper quality on this issue. Let me know what you feel about that, but I liked it. Red Sonja, Red Sitha, issue number 2. Red Sitha is the character recently introduced in Mirka Andolfo's Red Sonja series. She's a little girl in that one, and now she's grown up. She's her own brand of badass here, and I'm loving it. The second issue, I thought, really outshined the first, and that's a rarity in a lot of comics, but I loved this issue. It's got a great sense of humor. It's got a great sense of action and drama and mystery and intrigue all at once. So if you like your swords and adventure, fantasy, and things like that, this is definitely something for you. Don't sleep on it because it's not necessarily Red Sonja, but it is very much connected to that character because she was basically raised by Red Sonja, is what we're being led to understand. Then we got Dynamite Never Dies, issue number 4, the penultimate issue, I believe, of this series. This is the 3rd or 4th volume of this whole thing. Zombies going across the Dynamite multiverse. You got a version of Red Sonja, Vampirella, and Pantha, and Tarzan, and you got Deja Thoris, and Warlock, all these different properties thrown together. Now, most of the action here takes place on Mars. They're part of the zombie invasion now, but I like it. It's got great artwork that's dynamic and really nicely realized, and it's got a pretty fun, solid story, so I'm enjoying that one. Then we got Vampirella, Dracula Unholy, issue number 6. This is the final issue. Christopher Priest has done a good job here because this is basically like the big end of a big phase of Christopher Priest doing like Vampirella for like 25 issues, and it leads into this. So there were times where I was lost. Even in this issue, I felt a bit confused. Plus, Priest just has a way of structuring a story that sometimes you got to just work a little bit extra to kind of get. That being said, I did like how this story wound up. I wasn't necessarily the hugest fan of the artwork throughout this series, but I did like the gist of the story, and more so, I'm very excited for the start of Vampirella Year 1 by Priest, which is a little bit more, I think, of a good clean slate start to jump into his run if you don't want to get caught up. But Vampirella Unholy, Dracula, a love story. It was pretty decent. Then we got Artist Elite Red Primer. Primer Red, right? Yeah, Primer Red. So Artist Elite is going to be an anthology comic book that's going to have a rotating stories in it, right? They're going to go in and out, and some chapters of this, and then some other ones, and then, you know, like a heavy metal or something like that. But you got some really top-notch names that are kind of associated with this artist, writer-driven comic book company. So this is kind of like Image back in the day, right? But you got Brett Booth in here, so you got his character, Lost Serpent Prince. You get a little bit of, for all of these, you get a concept, like a pitch. You get a concept, and you get some art. And the art all looks great for the most part in this book. There's some really interesting concepts. There's this one, which is going to be called Mecha Girl, which just, the art in that looks insane. Some of them are okay, and then we got Ben Templesmith, so that's super cool. So obviously, the anthology hasn't started yet. They're doing these 2 primer books to let you know what the books are, give you a little bit of information, give you a little bit of artwork, kind of lead you into what maybe you want to check out, because they're all going to be in the same book. That being said, these are, I guess, technically the first appearances of these characters. You know how that goes. I'm not into that, but I really liked it. I thought it was cool, and I'm excited to check that out. So, that's what I read. That's what I thought. Dynamite had a pretty solid week. We Have Demons was awesome. Scouts got a pretty decent week, though, but By the Horn, so glad that book is back. Marvel had some okay books. One of the best ones I read was a reprint of a Rob Liefeld book. Carnage, though, was really cool. The Batman and Superman annuals are actually really cool. Nice House on the Lake is still good. Just need to get a little bit more of a reread in there. Firepower soars like usual. Justice League Road to Dark Crisis for the most hardcore fans. Some nice kind of throwbacks to 90s Image. And then Little Monsters, Step by Bloody Step. Stand by Blaze had a weird ending, but The Closet, that was the book of the week for me. That's the pick. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station. Pop, pop, boom.